Good morning, everybody, or afternoon from from us. Please feel free to type in the chat which program you're with, what type of a member you are. Are you a Vista? Are you a state member? And maybe something you're excited about for Thanksgiving. We'll give people just one more minute to join, and then we will kick things off. Hi, Ken.
Hello, how you doing? Here I am.
It's good to see you, and it's good to see that office.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, traveling for Thanksgiving. That's nice. We are hosting everybody here at my house, my husband's family, my family.
Good at least. Yeah. This is a statewide her position now.
Is that Annie?
No, that was T.
Oh,
That was T.
nice.
Yeah. So get a chance to get it out here.
Good. Oh, all right. Well, I will go ahead and kick things off for everybody. So welcome. Thank you so much for attending the Career Pathways meeting with us today. We're excited to have 3 of our former members share their experiences with their life after AmeriCorps, and hopefully their story can help some of you as you begin to think about what lies ahead for after service. We recognize that you are all at probably very different points in your lives and your careers, and we want to be able to show you what post-service opportunities can look like, how you can remain involved in your community, and how to use your education award. So we'll be hosting a series of these panels, including surviving your service year and ask us anything. So first up, I would like to announce our panelists. First, we'll have Ken. Ken is an AmeriCorps member who lends his efforts to projects such as the Together We Prepare with the American Red Cross. Originally from Flint, Michigan, Ken became an AmeriCorps member to help his community in need. He wanted to become an example to others like himself who grew up in poverty and encourage them to also better their community. Today, Kenneth serves as a disaster preparedness educator where he educates students, families, and adults on how to be safe in the event of a disaster such as a home fire, tornado, or a flood. Ken states that serving has become an effective way to help communities save lives help save lives in the community that I grew up in. It taught me the importance of giving back to a community that has provided me so much growing up. This is why I recruit volunteers from the community where I grew up and share how rewarding it is to help others as they know my story of growing up in poverty. I want to spread the message from homelessness to hope and allow them to see how I am part of the change as an AmeriCorps member. Next, we have Catherine Schaefer. Catherine served as a Vista member from 2000 to 2003 in Detroit, where she helped foster community partnerships for new economic development projects. She assessed needs for community housing and neighborhood development, assisted in facilitating technical assistant workshops and classes, and helped foster community partnerships across the city. Catherine graduated from Illinois State University with her BS in sociology and urban studies. Catherine has been working with the Ross Innovative Employment Solutions in Milwaukee for the past 20 years and is an active member of our alumni network on LinkedIn. Finally, we have Ebony Williams. Ebony served as an AmeriCorps member in Detroit with the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness at Community and Home Supports as an outreach specialist. Here, she was responsible for a variety of duties aimed at connecting unsheltered clients to housing resources. She also helped conduct initial intakes for clients who were eligible for housing assistance and provided case management. After her term as a member at her host site, the host site, Community Home Supports, offered her a position as a resource navigator. Ebony graduated from Wayne State University with a BA in Political Science and Peace and Conflict Studies in 2020. She is currently getting her Master's of Public Administration at Wayne State. So we have some pre-selected questions that we are going to ask our panelists, but we will try to save some time at the end for some Q&A, and we will also be monitoring the chat. So please feel free to add in any comments throughout, or if you have any questions. But I will start out and I will ask each of you to just give a brief introduction, your name, where you served, the years you served, and a little bit about what you're doing now. And we'll start with Ken, go to Catherine, and then we'll head over to Ebony.
Okay. I'm currently at the American Red Cross, and I graduate of University of Michigan, and I have enjoyed every job opportunity that I've had. And so I retired to continue my mission. I worked as a homeless youth and runaway PERS contract administrator for the state of Michigan. And so I'm very familiar with MICA and various other programs. So I just thought it would be a good opportunity now to continue serving. And so what I do is now I'm with the United Way, still partnering with the American Red Cross as well.
Great, thank you. Catherine, we'll head over to you.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I started my service in November of 2000. I worked at CDC, which is a community development corporation called Emmanuel Community House. Emmanuel was trying to build up, we're in that corridor of John R. between 6 and 7 Mile. And I don't know if you've been in that area anytime recently. Her vision, the director, was to build new family homes, make them disability accessible. So I did a lot of pre-work with that. I changed over in I went on for a second year and worked with Michigan Neighborhood Partnership. And we provided technical assistance to faith-based and community development corporations in their projects. So it was fascinating, loved it. I actually started out my career with Ross right after my service term, and I was a case manager in Welfare to Work, and actually worked in the economic downturn in 2008 with laid off workers. And then 2016 found myself laid off, and then I transferred out to Milwaukee with the same company. And now I'm a job developer, a business service person. So a lot of the process of finding community connections kind of bridged over into my current career.
That's great. And then finally, we'll head over to Ebony.
Hi, everyone. So I started my AmeriCorps journey October 2021. And I worked at Community and Home Supports through the MICA program, so Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. And I mostly did street outreach. So just meeting the clients where they were at, you know, be it at Hart Plaza, different parks in the neighborhood, vehicles to get the verification of homelessness to begin the intake process. So I guess like with this experience, I just learned so much about the housing process and the different barriers people may face just getting housed and even after they're housed. So it was just like a really great learning opportunity. And after my service year ended just a month ago, I started full-time at Community and Home Supports as a resource navigator.
That's great. I love that. All right, Ken, I'm going to start with you. I have a question for you. Why did you choose AmeriCorps over a normal volunteer position? And why do you choose to continue to serve your community?
Well, I started actually as a volunteer. As soon as I retired, I was already working with homeless runaway youth, and I got introduced to a VISTA program while serving in my capacity while working. And so I learned a lot about the VISTA program and AmeriCorps through just working with the other youth that was there. And so when I retired, I walked in and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go over to Red Cross as opposed to a normal job somewhere. And I want to see what they have to offer. So as I was going on the AmeriCorps site, I ran across Together We Prepare. I'm like, okay, that's a great opportunity. And guess what? This is me. This is exactly me. This is what I was destined to do. Because every job that I had, I was told a long time ago that if you get into a job or a line of work that you enjoy, it becomes a hobby. So coming with Together We Prepare became a hobby because I had an opportunity to teach and train, go into schools and teach preparedness with young people, connect with community members, those that I knew, many that I didn't know. And so it gave me an opportunity to really get focused in terms of what I wanted to do in my What's Next venture. And my What's Next venture was to work or a service. Let me rephrase that because it's not work, it is a service as an AmeriCorps. So I serviced at the Red Cross for 4 years. And so this is my journey to go as a Vista to continue the work that's already been started. So I have an opportunity to continue to serve the community that I grew up in.
Excellent, thank you. Catherine, the next question we have is for you. Why did you choose to work at Ross Innovative Solutions, and how did AmeriCorps help prepare you for your current role?
I am in an industry called workforce development. Workforce development focuses on the individual gaining reemployment as well as offering services to employers. So just like community development was building up the community, the individuals within the community, I saw workforce development building up the individual. And I started to really understand the economic impacts of someone having a job, thriving in the city, as we all have lived in Detroit. You know, if the city thrives, the whole community thrives, and it kind of ripples out like a lake. So that was something where I felt my service tied a lot with workforce development.
Very nice. All right. And then Ebony, I think the next question is for you. What was your post-service pathway, and how did AmeriCorps help you in choosing or applying or getting into what you're into now?
Yeah, so during my service working with community and home supports, I had an idea that I probably wanted to work full time with them after service, but just learning and just connecting with the people there, you know, networking with the other housing staffs at different providers, it just helped me on that journey to, you know, accept that full-time position. And also with graduate school, I feel like AmeriCorps really gave me a purpose with graduate school. Like I could see what I would want to do and how my education can tie into what I, you know, want to do in the future, such as like policy development and like just creating more housing policy that's more for the client driven, so more client centered with having that experience. So yeah.
And did you, as a follow-up, you were in the process of either applying or were in grad school while you were in serving as an AmeriCorps member? How did that help you, your time as an AmeriCorps member help you? Or did you leverage any resources or maybe people that you talked to that were previous members that could help you get into the school or through the application process?
Yeah. So I was actually already in graduate school. So I was in graduate school while serving in AmeriCorps. So I guess with like my classes, I just was able to tie my service like with working with the homeless community and like my interest growing with housing policy within my graduate program. So I'm also I decided to concentrate on economic development and like focus on like housing policy and programs and real estate development to just have more knowledge of that, you know, end of the spectrum.
And how are you managing the balance of working and school and everything all at once?
I mean, it is very challenging. I have like a very color coordinated calendar that I have to go by, but it has been very rewarding at the same time because I do enjoy my job. So it's like it doesn't feel like work at times. You know, you get frustrated with like the different obstacles that we have to go through to get someone housed, but it is very rewarding for me, especially just seeing someone get housed is just, I don't know, it's just a great feeling. So yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Oh, great. I know a lot of our members are probably trying to serve while having a job. So yeah, it's nice to know that can be done. Ken, what was the most important thing that you got out of serving that has helped you now, whether that be professionally in your continued service or personally? How did your service year impact you?
Well, my service, you said service year, I'm going to say service years, okay? Because I've been around for a while. And I guess the greatest impact that professionally and personal for me is that coming from a homeless youth program and recognizing the needs of homeless youth, a lot of times I think that we miss opportunities to engage and bring an awareness of the AmeriCorps program to those that would have an excellent experience and opportunities, such as I'm still on a board for the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. And in Genesee County, I also serve on the board for the Reach and Traverse Place program, which are youth driven. And so just making them, when they're living and they don't have opportunities or don't have parents to guide them and provide that direction, being an AmeriCorps member allowed me to continue to service those youth by educating them on what AmeriCorps is and benefits and opportunities that's available from moving them from homelessness to hope. So it has really guided me to focus a lot more on how can I make them aware, show them how to better manage their financial resources so that they can attend college or get in a situation where they have an opportunity to get a trade. And so just showing them and being able to go out in the community and talk with those kids and say, or young people and say, hey, here's an opportunity and here's how you could do it. So it also brings a lot of awareness to each one of the program organizations that I thrive to work with.
I think you hit it on a really key point is, making people aware of it. So that brand recognition almost, but then also trying to find ways to remove barriers so that they are able to do it. So.
Right, exactly. And capacity building. I think that's a key point, because if I'm one person and I can expound on that and help a young person become educated and they go and share it with others, then you are strictly capacity building.
Yes. So the next question I'm going to open up for everybody is, how did you use your education award, and do you have any best practices or tips or tricks?
I'll jump in real quick.
I knew that was coming.
I was in debt. Let's say that, college debt. So I paid off and used it towards that. My advice is to seek out, and it may cost a little money, is to do the research of what the grant can do. I had to consult with a tax person, and we found some ways that we can do it where it wasn't as painful. So
I love that. I feel that debt, it's looming still. Ken or Ebony, have you guys used yours?
I actually haven't used mine yet, so I'll probably use it in my last semester coming forward for graduate school, but I haven't used mine yet.
All right.
And I use mine for my grandson and granddaughter. I gifted the opportunity and those funds to them so that they could use the actual Seagull Award. And also, but I put some stipulations on there. So it's not like you're going to be, I do the work, you guys get, the financial assistance. So they both have to volunteer in order to do that. So it's helping them become aware and giving them some knowledge. And they've already established their AmeriCorps site and had their profile so that they know where to go to find out information, as well as information on the campus.
Excellent. And we have a great webinar up on the Michigan Community Service Commission website on how to use your education award, the different options that you have, knowing and understanding that you will be taxed on that the year that you use that, and yeah, just some ways on how to go about accessing that, because a lot of times you might ask your program director, like, oh, like, how do I get to that? And they might not know. It's like all in that back end of the portal. So I highly recommend that you check out that webinar. The next question I have is for Catherine. What type of prior experience is necessary for your role that you're in now? And what skills were essential for success, like both hard skills and soft skills? And did you learn any of those while serving?
Yeah, the amazing answer, Ellis, is the service year really laid an awesome foundation for what I was coming into. So my current position is actually government contracted on a federal level, and then it goes down to the state. So just like our community development corporations, they're getting certain funding. And the hard skill of it is following, you're granted to do a certain thing, and we need to follow these certain types of policies. It was almost essential that kind of set me up, and I had to even be more savvy to understand the laws and regulations, because people don't just pay taxes and expect services in return. They want to see results in certain things that happen from workforce development. The other beautiful thing that I think happened in a service year is you don't really know, you want to serve and you want to give back to the community, but there's that ground running type of learning philosophy. Especially, I was in a community center, and I think the biggest thing that I can say is this, what we call cultural competencies or cultural learning. Understanding different people, how to navigate some of that is really essential and critical. And it developed over time. If one person lives a particular way, doesn't necessarily mean that's not a form of success for someone else or what someone wants. I was in the Chaldean neighborhood, which is 7 Mile in John R. back then. I'm in a heavily Hmong population. They're Chinese, and as well as an African American community. So I'm a minority when I come into work. And I think, even having those service years and interactions and stuff like that, and really learning, asking questions, really helped me. That cultural competency is really huge. And sometimes if you don't know, sometimes just ask questions and observe and ask people, what they would like. Before I'd be like, I'm a hero, I'm going to come into the community and do all these great things, or, oh, I'm going to help you get a job. And sometimes it's these baby steps that you work with individuals and being in tune that I think it's just been phenomenal. And you feel rewarded at the end of the day. Like a lot of times I know we carry a burden, we ache in our heart for the things we want to see the change in the community. But when you transition as a professional, knowing that you gave your best at the end of the day, I can go to bed at night. I'm not up, in the middle of the night worrying about a client of mine. And it's such a beautiful thing.
That's great. I never did a term of service. I kind of jumped in after I was like mid-career, and I really think I would have benefited from some of those skills, especially the cultural competency aspect, because just jumping right into this AmeriCorps world, you see the diversity of who you're serving and who you're serving with, and it's really great. But yeah, I like that point about asking questions. That's how I survived. All right, the next question we have is for Ebony. Ebony, if you could have done something differently within your service time, maybe not working or serving with a different program, but like doing something differently, what would you have done differently?
I think in the beginning, I would have not been as afraid to ask questions. So just asking more questions from the start, showcasing that curiosity, like from the beginning of service. That's what I would have done differently. But something I'm glad that I did do was pretty much going to every training webinar that AmeriCorps was offering. Like I was in attendance, taking notes for the most part. So just, communication as well is like so critical, especially like within the housing realm, because you're communicating with both, the client, being that, as a navigator, being that middle person between the client and like the provider for the most part, and just being that link. But I would definitely say just asking those questions, it's nothing wrong asking questions. Like it shows your initiative, if anything. So yeah, that's what I would have changed in the start.
Excellent. Ken, one final question for you. I know this from prior experience with you, but you are a master at reaching out to people in the community, making those connections. You would even go to a grocery store and start talking to people about getting involved or get that smoke detector. So, which I just love. But what is your technique? How do you strike up these conversations? Because I do think the face-to-face is incredibly important when you're trying to do that community outreach. But teach us, Yoda.
Right. Well, it's real to me. It's one of those things to where, as I said, if you get into something that you enjoy doing, it becomes a hobby. So your elevator speech becomes, paramount in what you say and what you talk about in terms of smoke detectors, and then be prepared for the questions. Well, how many can you put in? Where should they be? And things of that nature. And, letting people know that, we want to make sure that you're safe. Well, and sometimes you hear things like, I have smoke detectors, and I'll say things like, okay, but I didn't ask you that. I asked you, did you have working smoke detectors? Oh, well, I hear something chirping. So we could provide smoke detectors to you free of charge. So let's get rid of the chirper and let's make sure that they're where they're supposed to be, because my objective is to make sure that you're safe and your families are safe. So utilizing a model of find a way, make a way, and going into places that many folks might not want to go into, and sometimes not being let in, because a resident or community member may feel like, okay, you're not communicating with me effectively. For example, going into like the Hispanic community, Mexican community, and many times you have to find a different way. And so that different way might be to change your approach and then try to recruit in the process of it for that community. So instead of you going in that community and doing the talking, they're doing the talking points for you, and they're getting you in the door, working with the deaf community and thinking outside the box, to inform them of bed shaker alarms and informing them of how a bed shaker actually works, and when you install smoke detectors and they're free, and how we can get bed shakers. So it's just a different approach in taking people where they are. And so when you don't know sign language, so you're kind of lost. So we figured out a way to do it. And okay, we take a whiteboard with us and we write everything out. Okay, so now they know, or you already know, that they're deaf. And so when you leave, you ask the questions like, when they ask you, they say thank you, then, well, how do you say welcome? You use that on the whiteboard so that they'll show you how to say welcome. And that way it makes you feel like on the other side, and makes them feel like, okay, we've got one person to learn how to say thank you and welcome. So when you go to the next home, you're able to do that.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
And
welcome.
I will ask one final question of all of you, and that is, what is the one piece of advice that you could offer members as they begin to start to think about their next steps for their life after AmeriCorps or their current term of service?
I would say one thing is to start to plan, not wait until the end but start to plan what your what's next thing is. Okay. So that you know this is something that I could get into. Also research what they're doing. Do your homework and find out, is this something that I would be able every morning to get up and do? And do I want to make that commitment? So it's not a situation where you look at AmeriCorps as a job, because it's not a job, it's a service opportunity.
Catherine or Ebony, did you guys have any advice for people as they begin to think about what their life looks like after this?
I love Ken's answer. That's almost, I want to derail, but there was one particular thing that made me like frustrated, but I do think in kinship with Ken and Ebony, that purpose and what drives you to serve, tapping into that and knowing what that looks like is really good to know. I could go on for hours on this as well. But the one thing I did want to mention that I did not understand that I want to tell people about, when you're in AmeriCorps, you qualify for non-competitive status with federal jobs. And when you have non-competitive status, that means you have less of a gruesome process to get into federal jobs. And I did not research this until afterwards when I was finding a job. So I'd love for you to Google non-competitive status, go to usajobs.gov, look that up. A fellow VISTA member of mine landed something with the USDA in the state of Michigan, a wonderful job. And I was very jealous and didn't think about those kind of things. So if I say anything to you is not look at non-competitive status. Yes, and that was a very good question I saw pop up. It actually applies to the whole broad spectrum of AmeriCorps. I looked this up ahead of time, Alice, to make sure I wasn't overstepping. It broadens to AmeriCorps and Peace Corps individuals when you look that up. So that would be the one thing, but I could almost echo what Ken said about purpose and stuff like that. So, repeat it's USA and then jobs, JOBS.gov. That's where you can find all the federal government openings on that site. Did you get that? I can even type it in the chat as well. Okay, you're welcome. So I will try that, but that was one of my sites and I did a lot of things, and there's a lot of unique opportunities if you want to go into federal government. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. That's a great piece of advice. And I think the AmeriCorps.gov website has a little write-up on that as well. So if you just go into the search bar there, you can go right into non-competitive eligibility or status and see how that might work for you. Ebony, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what has been said, but also just utilizing those relationships that you have built during the service year. So like, talk to your host site supervisor to see if you want to continue like working there after your service year is done. Also just connecting with, your AmeriCorps program director, see if there's any like other job opportunities, and as well as joining, the LinkedIn AmeriCorps, different groups like that. So just networking and then, using those relationships to see where you want to end up at.
I love that. Yeah, if your host site maybe doesn't know that you're interested, and you've got to ask the question, just let them know. I want to stay. How can I make that happen? I love that. The Red Cross, where I was a program director, they were pretty good about trying to, if there were open positions, especially in our Detroit office, trying to recruit members to be, after their service year, of course, to be staff members. But and Ken over there looks like he's still at Red Cross with T, another former member. So
yes,
warms my heart.
yes.
Do we have any questions from anybody in the audience for our panelists? No? Well, might end this a little bit earlier than I anticipated, but I feel like we've got a lot of great information from our panelists. Thank you very much for taking your time today to share this, all of your stories and advice with us. And I'll make sure to post the recording and share that with our program directors as well. So, we do have one question. What tips would you have for someone who realized that they don't want to continue doing what they did as a Vista? Ooh.
I'm good at that, but I don't want to jump in if Ebony and Ken, because I'm a career coach by trade. I'll pass it to those guys.
Okay.
Well, I think if it's something that you really don't like to do, or you're really looking for another opportunity, complete your year of service, research what your plan is, and find out what it is that you would be able to be engaged in. Because if that doesn't happen, then what's normally going to happen is you're going to sign up for another term in a service, or you're going to get a job. And just because you're an AmeriCorps member does not mean that it doesn't lead to outside employment if that's what your goal is. But the one thing that you don't want to do is miss an opportunity for your Siegel Award that can help advance your career in whatever you want to do. And sometimes it's just a matter of sitting back and saying, okay, I'm really not in tune with this, but I've got to get in tune to complete my year of service, because you don't want to just end it and then not have an opportunity to come back as an AmeriCorps. Okay, so I think it's important to research what what's next thing is and complete your term.
And the commission is working right now on preliminarily setting up some sort of ways that we can bring in like a big kind of sharing opportunity between members. We used to do celebration all the time. Unfortunately, it was canceled the last few years, but it's where AmeriCorps members could talk with one another about what they're doing. So they have they can share maybe you are currently serving in a health related field, but I don't know, this disaster related field looks more interesting to you. You can connect with those members. So we're hoping to be able to find a way that we can connect members all over, as well as bring in companies for informational interviews, so you can sit down and understand a little bit about maybe what this career path looks like.
Elise, I was just thinking with that question there, because what I did not share that I wished I would have is that being a service member as an AmeriCorps led to me getting some additional training through the American Red Cross for disaster relief, and to be able to go and assist, for example, Hurricane Ian and various other opportunities that you come to serve and help other people. That also gives you an opportunity to take a look at, different areas, give you an opportunity to travel because you've had the training, and yes, you're going to assist people and service other people, but it gives you an opportunity to look at it. And one thing that I think is that we had not stated is that, as an AmeriCorps member, it gives you an opportunity to travel from one state to another state and give you your chance to take a look and say, is this what I want to do here? Because what might be specific to your area, you may be missing some things that might be in another state that you might want to gravitate to.
Absolutely. And that's the fun part about a lot of this stuff, is like exploring what is a good career option for you. And yeah, it's all about just getting that experience, making those connections. So you don't necessarily have to sign up for a full service year. There's lots of opportunities for shorter positions as well if we want to just dabble. So
I'll say this real briefly. If anyone wants to connect with me, I'm funded to help out a certain population, but I have like a career development facilitator. If you have simple questions, and if you want to shoot me an email or something like that, I can kind of point you in the right directions. Because obviously that's a beautiful thing about doing a term of service. You're going to find things you absolutely hate or dislike, or you start seeing things that you don't like, and then you start finding things you do like. And it's wonderful that you committed to this year of service. I want you to be proud and sticking it through, but there are a lot of directions. And Ellis didn't give me the opportunity to say this, but when I sat down in an interview and they knew what AmeriCorps was and what I did, it's almost like I pretty much halfway got the job because they saw my commitment to my service year. So I'll put my email in the chat. Don't be shy to reach out or drop me a one-liner. I'm so used to doing this day in and day out. If you want an extra little tip or talk to a person, I'm happy to connect.
Thank you. Yes, the power of having AmeriCorps on your resume. That is huge. It is big. Any other questions from the group today? No? Well, thank you all for joining us. It's been great to spend my lunch with you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I hope that you guys can join us for future panels.
Okay, no problem. All right, see you now.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right.
Nice to meet everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.